Hello, everybody. Today I am talking with Rebecca Arguello. She is currently living in the San Francisco Bay Area in Pleasanton. She has a very interesting journey coming to being an artist. She started out at UC Santa Barbara, in which she studied environmental studies. And then she also studied holistic healing at the Hira Dea Holistic School in San Luis Obispo. And currently she does amazing paintings. And hi, Rebecca. It's good to see you.
Hi, John. Good to see you as well.
So that's quite a journey where you go from something that's very scientific, like environmental studies, to something that's based on tradition and a lot of practices that are sometimes hard to conceive with logic, to painting to where it's just it's pretty much the train as you would like it to be. So you go from very logical to very much about feelings and concepts that are different to just you. How does all that fit?
Well, I think there's a big tie between my environmental studies and painting. Emotionally, I was tied to the beach. I was tied to wanting to be a marine biologist. So studying science for me had an emotional component already. And after I had graduated, I was unable to work anymore because I had gotten pregnant with twins. And some of the work that I was doing was in a caustic environment. So I was no longer able to do it. So I took up painting as a way to decorate the house. I didn't really have any formal training.
That's very interesting, actually, but go ahead.
I couldn't afford art, and I really wanted to decorate the house, and I was stuck at home with kids. So I started dabbling in different mediums and abstract stuff, and the ocean kept calling. So one time I went to the beach with the kids when they were little, and I did my very first plein air out at the beach, and it was horrific, but but I kept with it.
But we all start someplace.
That's absolutely right.
Very nice. So in your paintings, like the water is just something that I want to immerse myself in. I mean, it's something that draws me in. What is your experience with water and painting water?
My experience with water is I grew up in Santa Barbara, basically on the beach. And so I have a lot of firsthand knowledge of just visually studying the ocean.
Yeah.
I would say scientifically, there are some components that are similar when you have to understand light and atmosphere and particulate matter and refraction. And there are some things that I can take from my science learning and apply them to my painting. But my tie to the water has just been part of my life. It's my upbringing. My mom grew up in the ocean. My uncle and my grandparents grew up in the ocean. So it's just a generational, love of nature, quite honestly.
So the subject matter seems to be very emotional, about love. Is that fair to say?
It is. It's absolutely fair to say. When I lived in Portland, I moved from California to Portland. And part of the reason I started painting the ocean was because I was further from it. You're still close to it in Portland, but I was further than I was used to being from it. And I wanted sun because we don't have sun in Portland. So I started painting light as a way to immerse myself in it because I was so devoid of it there in Portland. So it kind of became a therapeutic and a way to fight through some seasonal affect disorder, to just, study light and immerse myself in it. So I kind of poured my seasonal depression into my paintings quite a bit when I lived in Portland. And my goal was to paint my way back to California so that I could be in the sun again for more time out of the year.
Yeah, what's interesting hearing you talk about light is well, the painting that we'll be exhibiting is that transition time.
Yeah.
Where it's not light, it's not dark, and I've seen that as a subject matter often in your work.
Yeah.
It's like that time of day where it's not quite day, it's not quite night, and there's a quality to the air that changes.
Yeah.
It's like the whole world is kind of holding its breath at that moment.
Yeah.
For the next step, and you seem to be able to capture that hesitation, that kind of holding of breath as the next thing comes.
Yeah, it is such a fleeting moment. That moment when the sun just passes the horizon line and the sky lightens up more than it was throughout the day. It's much darker on a value scale. Midday, the sky is so much darker than it is at that moment when the sun passes the horizon line. It just completely lightens up, and then all the water just becomes dark, much darker in front of you. And that high contrast is always something that draws me into painting. I love high highs and high values and dark values within a same canvas. So if there's anything there that's got highs, high contrast, I feel the need to kind of take it on.
Can you talk about composition? And I've seen you plein air paint, and it seems like you're very conscious about how things compositionally are relating to each other. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. What can I say about composition? Usually I'm drawn to a painting first by what I'm seeing, of course. So once I figure out the scene that I want, I try to, depending on what I have with me. So if I'm plein air painting and I have a canvas that's only a certain size, I'm going to shift my composition based off of what I feel like I can tell on that size of my canvas. But composition for me is usually more emotional than it is logical. I'm not like 2/3 land, 1/3 water. I don't necessarily follow the certain rules of the thirds. I try to. If I find something in the center, I'll definitely shove it over. I'm just getting to the point of being able to remove things and add things that I feel are compositionally incorrect. But I have no training formally, so it's hard for me to speak on exactly what about the composition grabs me, other than my emotional attachment to the actual landscape and making sure it fits. So there are some rules that I follow as far as, like making sure nothing is quite dead center, and having interest, and leaving. Most important for me is having a space to relax within a painting. So I typically like to have, if it's busy, which I can definitely be, I want to make sure I concentrate on having an area that's relaxing, something that moves me through the painting. I can either create a lot of information or, just a little bit. And either way that I approach that, I try to approach it with the idea that I'm moving you through a painting, and you have moments of busy and you have moments of rest. So it's a hard line, soft line thing for me when I'm painting, but I'm thinking, this is too busy, I need to quiet this. So compositionally, that's probably the only thing I really carry with me throughout my painting. And that will require me to take things out or add things if I'm moving too far, if I'm too busy, or if it's too quiet.
Could you talk about the painting behind you, and
Sure.
I'm interested where you're working with kind of busyness where you're giving um, my eye a chance to rest, just just the kinds of things that you were just talking about. Could you talk about that in that painting?
Absolutely. This painting's actually been a little bit frustrating because that's the one thing I've been fighting with the most is there's so much information. It's the hills in Carmel, and there's all of these beautiful houses that are just nestled in these little valleys. And I want to put all of it in, but also I want to be the artist that says very little that you can read into, so you can interpret your own, idea about it. So I've been fighting with taking out information. As far as the furthest ridge line, I've kind of softened up, and it's just very busy here. As you can tell too, compositionally, it's not quite correct because it's half and half, and that actually is a little bothersome to me. So I may move some stuff down to keep this center line from not being so dead center. The other thing I'm struggling with right now, as far as composition, is adding, where I was standing was up on this cliff side over here. So there's actually a cliff that I'm standing on that I could insert into the picture if I wanted to. And my heart is telling me not to, because first of all, I like painting water, but also it's still enough that I feel like it juxtaposes all of the noise that's above it. So it may stay like this. I may add the cliff, but like I said, I'm kind of an emotional painter, so it kind of depends on where I'm at during my process. But as it stands now, it's maybe about 70% done. But I think I may leave the ocean just the way that it is. And I still need to work on all of the highlights and adjust values and finish the water.
So this started out as a plein air painting?
It started out as a trip to Point Lobos. I didn't do plein air painting there. I took a ton of photographs and I did some sketches and some color notes, but I didn't do a physical plein air piece.
Okay. Now you talked about that furthest hill that you changed the tone. Did you change the color too to a warmer color than it was, or?
This is actually at about 11 o'clock. So the sun is still rising up behind these ridge here. So this ridge that's in the very back is considerably lighter than the rest, which kind of was the initial selling point for me on painting this scene, was this backlit scene of all of these trees and the atmosphere of it. It was just gorgeous. And all you had was this little rim light behind all of these trees. And the morning light was just, filtered enough, and it wasn't completely clear. So that's what I'm trying to convey in this painting, is the sun's coming up right from back here, and the light source will be coming this way. So hopefully I can lead you this way and then this way. So it's not just a shut off scene. So yeah, there's a sun coming up back behind there. And that's why that has that warmer hue to it.
So light is very important when you're considering a painting.
I think light is probably the first thing I think about, more than color. Yeah, it's usually light / atmosphere.
Now when you're so light is of course quite different from a photograph as opposed to standing in it. One that when you're standing in it, it's always changing. How do you because light is so important for the painting, how do you work with changing light in say a plein air situation?
Block in all of the shadows first. Get them if they're where you want them when you get there. Block them in. I would say the first thing I would do is understand where the sun is, what its position is, and where it's going to set. So face in the direction that I want. Usually I paint a lot of backlit scenes, which is kind of nice because you can hide a lot of information with backlit scenes. So
the tricks are coming out.
yes. So I'll figure the direction of the sun first, and then I try to get in all of my shapes. If the light is where I want the light, I'll paint my shadows and I'll get the sky in as fast as I can. If I know it's going to be sunset and I want those sunset colors, I'll work on everything else and then wait for that sunset and then just make color notes. If I can't get it in, like maybe a section of each spot, and then go home and finish it out.
The painting that we'll be exhibiting for the project, talking about backlight, you did this marvelous wave. I mean, what I really loved about it is, it's a very dark value.
Yeah.
And when you're in those kinds of values, it's hard to make something lively.
Yeah.
But you did it, and it was like brushstroke and very subtle value. And I've always marveled on that wave. The first time I saw it, I looked at that and I go, wow, that's really an amazing painting job there. Can you comment, because you often do paintings that are dark.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the attraction and some of the things that you do in order to make things lively, in a dark area?
Yeah. Personally, I've realized that taking photographs of things makes your darkest darker. So it's been something I've focused on for the last 2 years to lighten up my shadows. Even in that painting, as much as I love it, looking at it now, I realize I probably should have gone another value higher. But that's where I'm at now, and I think that's why I've been continually trying to understand backlit scenes. There's something beautiful about the subtle hue and value shifts within shadows. And I probably spend the majority of my time within shadows, even though I like to paint highlights. I think that my shadows I spend the most time on.
Why is that?
Because there's such a big portion of my painting. The light is just a tiny bit, but if you don't have the weight to carry the light, you're not going to pop. It's not going to read. There's no contrast. So I think when you have something that's big and dark and there's a tiny light source next to it, that light just comes to life. So it's I really like playing within the darks and the little subtle hues, and I love grays, and I think that's part of my Portland life is just the beautiful blue grays and warm grays. And so it's kind of a weird mix of maybe partly being a depressed person and liking dark stuff. So maybe liking to paint things that are a little darker, but also the nuances within shadows that are kind of a struggle for me. So it's a bit of a challenge I give myself to understand them a little bit better.
Now, part of why painting is important to you is, and you've written about this, is that it's your way to, or it's one way that you can help promote a healthy environment and be positive and bring attention to problems. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, I do like to be involved with a lot of environmental organizations, and I think it's important now more than ever, even before when we started 7th Generation, that was spectacular. Seeing the coast, documenting what the environment looks like now, it could be drastically different in 50 years from now, even with just rising tides and erosion, or it could be drastically different. So for me, it feels very historical when I am trying to replicate my environment. And I also want to show it in a light that is worth people's attention, so that they understand the beauty of it and its importance of respecting and conserving and protecting. And I do paintings for Gaviota Coast Conservancy, where I've donated paintings, and they go to auction, and then they Heal Ocean, Santa Barbara, Maritime Museum stuff. I mean, there's just great organizations out there that use art to get the word around and have benefits. And and I love environmentalism. It was one of the reasons I got into the sciences that I got into. So it's kind of my way of staying close to that and feeling like I'm contributing as an artist, because it can definitely feel like a very isolated, self-fulfilling journey as a career. So this is kind of my way of being of service, and still honoring my education, I suppose.
So you have twins.
I do.
What are your thoughts at times when you read the news in the science journals? And can you just talk about that a little bit?
I feel as of late, more than just environmental, but as of late, it's very hard to feel uplifted and hopeful. I'm grateful that I have twins, because they're young and they bring that positive spin on things and insight that I may not have otherwise. It feels very daunting where we're at right now environmentally. And so much so that I just had this conversation with my husband. My work is completely affected by the worldview right now. I feel stifled. I've been trying to do things to move and find ideas, because I'm concerned, and it feels like I have no control. I'm trying to do what I can do. We're trying to do what we can do, but it definitely feels scary. The future feels a little scary for environmental issues.
I think one voice that we have as artists, though, is when there's discussions about what we're going to do and how we're going to do, et cetera. Often it's about science, jobs, economics, those kinds of things. And what I think is important about what artists can do is we bring a different dimension, because the kinds of things that we could bring to people is, this is why it's important, things like love and spiritual experience, because those are values too that make places important. And and as I'm saying that, all I can think of is, I love your water. As I was saying that, there's one painting on your website where there's just like this double wave coming at you, and it's like, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Sure. Well, we've been talking with Rebecca Arguello, and we will be exhibiting her painting July 13th through the 16th at the Lincoln City Cultural Center. Please come check it out. It's definitely worth seeing. You come tap my shoulder, and I will show you that beautiful dark wave that I was talking about. Well, thank you so much. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
Go see the show. It's a great show. And thank you, John. Thanks for having me and letting me talk. I appreciate it greatly.
Sure. It's my pleasure. Well, bye for now. And hopefully we'll see everybody in Lincoln City.